guys, and welcome back to another weekly What I Have Watched. I'm still using the old phone. I'm not using the Letterboxd app because my camera is rubbish. I'm eating a hair, so I'm not even bloopering that. I've already had to stop this 4 times for various reasons. So let's get cracked on with what I've watched this week, starting on the 18th with everyone else in the horror community, Halloween Kills. So, my favourite review that I watched for this was D Movie Man's, who I will link. You know the way you get to link the little video at the end? I'm going to link you his video. It is so funny and it's so on the nose, as to my opinion. Now, I, right off the bat, did not enjoy this movie. A lot of people are saying, I don't understand the hate this is getting. It's, you know, it shouldn't be. It wasn't a bad movie. I'm not going to give it any hate. But if I hear the phrase "evil dies tonight" one more time, my eyeballs will be permanently rolled into the back of my head. For me, the most important thing in a movie is a interesting storyline, plot, and good acting. And I feel that this movie had neither. I thought some of the acting actually made you physically cringe, and the story was non-existent. I will admit the kills were all really impressive, really good in that sense. Michael was brutal. If that's what you want to see, then you're going to enjoy it. I'm not saying this is a bad movie. I'm saying this is not for me. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It just needed more in the way of plot for me, and some of those actors just should not have been hired. So let's move swiftly on. On the same evening when I got home, I watched The Night House. Now, this one is a bit of an odd one. We've got Rebecca Hall in this one, who is fantastic in this movie. This is a movie about a woman whose husband has recently died. She's grieving, she's left in this big house, and she starts to have visions. She starts to think, am I going mad? Is this house haunted? And she's trying to come to terms with what she's seeing, but also what she's finding out, perhaps things about her husband that she was not aware of when he was alive. This is an interesting little one. Now, initially when I watched this, I felt that I didn't really enjoy it, but if you can hear noise, it's Dobby. I do apologise. Hello, Dobby. But in retrospect, when I'd finished watching it, I have to admit that it did actually stay. You're going to see a Dobby in a minute. That it did stay with me. No, you're not. Yes, I'm doing my video, Dobby. Like I do every week. Can you just turn around and sit down? That's a good girl. Yes. I'm not stopping again. I've had bloopers all day long on this. That's it. You sit there. So yeah, Night House. When I thought it's one of those ones that stays with you. The performance by Rebecca Hall was fantastic. So initially, I'm like, did I enjoy this? I gave it a 3 out of 5. I did think it was a solid movie. On the next evening, I watched a movie that's new to Netflix called The Forgotten Battle. This one is set in 1944, World War II. It's a mix of English, German and Dutch in the movie. We follow a lot of different people, but 3 main characters come together, their individual stories at one stage. In this, we have a British glider pilot. Now, this was news to me. Did you guys know that during the war there were pilots that weren't... You're probably going to think I'm ridiculously naive. I didn't know this. Pilots that were in gliders with no engines that were attached to the other aircraft by like a rope, and then they just let them go and they glided in with no engine. I'm like, oh my god, I couldn't believe this. But anyway, that's not what the movie's about. So it's a British glider pilot, a young girl that's with the resistance she's Dutch, against the Germans, and a young Dutch boy who is young man, quite young. Yes, Dobby, he's a young man who is fighting on the side of the German. So these 3 people's tales do come together. The dog was really interested in this story. Is it interesting? Yes. I really enjoyed this. It was a good movie. It's not like, if you want to watch a war movie for loads of action and effects and violence, it's not going to be for you. This is more a story. This is about the individual, individual people, their situation. I really enjoyed it because the characters were real. They were engrossing. The acting was very good. So yeah, I give that one a 3 out of 5 also. Okay, this next one is a documentary. I've actually seen it before. It's popped up again on Amazon Prime. This one's called 77 Minutes. This is a very difficult watch. I would not recommend this to most people unless you watch a lot of true crime and you're used to seeing things that are very disturbing. This follows the 1984 shooting in a McDonald's in San Diego, where an individual went in and basically gunned down 40 people. They didn't all die, but a very high proportion of them did, including children and, in one case, a young baby. This documentary does show video footage that the police took inside the McDonald's when the perpetrator had been shot. It includes footage of a lot of people dead, including a young child and a baby, which is extremely disturbing. Nothing is blurred, nothing is, I was quite shocked, to be honest with you. I've seen an awful lot of things, but I was quite shocked at how graphic this documentary actually is. The disturbing thing is it's called 77 minutes because that is how long it took for the police to bring the thing to a conclusion. We have interviews from a newscaster that was there, a reporter. We have individuals that witnessed it, and their story and the police inspector's story at the time are quite conflicting as to what they could see, what happened, what they did. But there was a situation where one of the police officers had a clear shot and didn't take it. And there's just a lot of argument back and forth about culpability. And obviously it's not the police's fault. It has also been said that the location that this happened in San Diego, if it had been a more predominantly white, affluent area, the police response time would have been much faster. So that in itself was quite disturbing. But this is a very well-made documentary, but it is a disturbing one, so I will warn you of that if you do go out to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment, and I give that one a 4 out of 5. Okay, and on to the 20th, I watched a movie on Netflix called The Trip. This is Norwegian. Now, this is one that I am going to push to anyone that'll watch it. I really, really enjoyed this. This is a horror comedy, which, as you know, if you know me well, I find it quite difficult to get that balance right. This just ticked all the boxes for me. This is a movie, it's a low-budget movie about a couple who are married and both of them are getting a bit tired of their partner. It's not a spoiler to say that each of them, they go for a break to a cabin in an isolated area, and each of them have got ideas to maybe do away with the other. But then something happens that creates an even bigger problem. Everything sort of ties together so that this couple need to put their plans on hold to deal with what happens to them. Really, really funny. Some quite gory bits in there, all very realistic gore, nothing over the top. Really made me laugh out loud several times, which doesn't happen. I do snigger sometimes or I smile, but this actually did get me laughing out loud. It's on Netflix, it's called The Trip, it's Norwegian. Please check it out, folks, it's well worth a watch. So the same evening on Amazon Prime, I watched a true story. It's a drama based on a true story called The Girl Who Killed Her Parents. Now this is, I think this was in Portuguese. This is a true story about a young girl called Suzanne von Richthofen who killed, with her boyfriend's help, her parents Manfred and Maricia von Richthofen. I found this really dull, really, with the subject matter and what happened. This should have been excellent, but it was like a Lifetime movie. So the one I watched was called The Girl Who Killed Her Parents. There is another one called The Boy Who Helped Kill Her Parents, I think, or something like that. I didn't watch the second one. I had full intentions of, but the first one was so mediocre. I didn't want to watch the same story again. Basically, one is told from her point of view and one is told from his point of view. So if you enjoy one, I suppose you could watch the other to see how they tie together. But I gave it a 2 out of 5. I thought it was really lackluster. I wasn't particularly engaged with the characters. I just didn't really enjoy it. So on the 21st, I watched a series on Netflix. It's only a 3-part series, so I was able to watch this in one sitting. I think the episodes are between 45 minutes to an hour each one. This is called Ghoul and it's Indian and it was originally released in 2018, but it's just, I do apologise. It either has just popped up on Netflix or maybe I've just discovered it on Netflix, I'm not entirely sure. This I really, really enjoyed. This is sort of set in a sort of dystopian future. We have the army who have taken someone as prisoner and are interrogating them. We have a young woman who has just got a job with this interrogation unit. It's a massive, I don't even want to say promotion, it's her first job after training. She shouldn't really have a job this high this soon. She's being trained how to interrogate people and in very physical ways. But there is a supernatural element to this also about possession. A ghoul is like an entity that can possess individuals. I won't say any more than that. I did really enjoy it. It was actually really realistic. I know that sounds ridiculous with the subject matter, but it managed to be really gritty, really dark, really engaging, and I just totally bought it. I really enjoyed the series. I gave that one a 4 out of 5. So on to the 23rd, and I went with my husband and son to the cinema to see Ron's Gone Wrong. I'm keeping Adam's Family values. Sorry, I'm keeping Adam's Family 2 sort of later in the week for Halloween. I have heard it's not very good, so I'm not expecting a lot. Ron's Gone Wrong, on the other hand, really, really good. We really enjoyed it. It's a story about a young boy who doesn't have this little bot that all the other kids have. It's this must-have thing at the moment that's been released, and it helps you make friends. Basically, the only way I can put it is it's almost like social media in a little robot. It looks kind of like Eva from WALL-E, and the kids can customize it, can give it whatever skin they want. They can make friends, like they like, like, oh dear me, like Facebook, they like each other's posts, they send friends requests. Every kid has one, but this little boy's family aren't particularly well off, and he doesn't have one. But he does end up, and I do apologise, I can't keep cutting every time she barks or I'd be here all day. He does eventually end up with one. I won't tell you how, but there are issues with it. But this movie really cleverly harnesses things that will interest kids of a certain age. Social media, likes, YouTube, Facebook. But also with that, a really important message of the importance of real true friendship and individuality. I did a come with us to see, so I talked a bit more about it in that if you want to hear a little bit more about the story and what we thought. Thoroughly really enjoyed this. So did my son, so did my husband, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5. And so finally, last night, 24th, I put on, despite myself, because I knew before I even put it on, Night Teeth was going to be terrible. I didn't last to the end of this. I think I managed 45 minutes, and I'm like to my husband, are you watching this? And he's like, nah. It was so dull. It was so just by the book. It was colouring by numbers. It was just, I didn't care about any of the characters. None of the performances stood out. It was lame. It's the only way I can think to put this. There was nothing going for it for me. I mean, the girls were really beautiful, if that's something to be going for it. But besides that, I just had no interest in finishing this movie because I felt I was wasting my time. So I gave it a 1.5 out of 5. I would not recommend. And when I switched off Night Teeth, I had about an hour left before I was going to bed. So I finished off a series I've been watching this week called Deadly Possessions. Now this is a series with Zach Baggins, I'm not sure how he said his name. Now I did tell you last week, if you do watch my weekly catch-ups, that there is a new series with him and Eli Roth where, what's it called? I cannot remember what it's called, but it basically plays out individual items that Zach Baggins has in his haunted museum. That's what it's called, Haunted Museum. And it plays out an actual drama concerning the individual items and what happens to the owners. And I said at that time I would rather watch a documentary about the individual items and the backstory and hear interviews from the real people. And lo and behold, this series actually exists. So I subscribed to Discovery Plus, I think it was, and they have a series called Deadly Possessions where Zach Baggins takes individual items from his museum, of which it's massive, and it like contains the most haunted and paranormal and cursed objects in existence. He has built up an absolutely amazing collection, and it goes into the stories behind specific ones. So we have Charles Manson's television, we have Bela Lugosi's mirror, we have a chest, I think it's called the Conjuring chest. I don't know if that's actually taken from the movie The Conjuring, or if the movie The Conjuring's taken from that, I'm not sure. But we have all these individual items, and we get the backstories from the people that own them or have donated them. These people want to get rid of these items. We have a Dybbuk box, which is responsible for numerous deaths. It's a really, really interesting series. I really highly recommend it if you're into that kind of thing. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just right up my street, so I would recommend that one. And finally, a TV show that I completed this week. I did briefly mention this in a previous week. It's called Mortem, No One Dies in Scarns. Really, really recommend this. This is also Norwegian. Now, Norwegians obviously have got their horror and comedy on point because this also is fantastic. Now this is kind of a horror series, but I'd say more of a drama with a slight horror element. This is about a young woman called Liv Halligan, who is, we start with her on a mortician slab, but she's not actually dead. I won't go into a lot more detail, but we follow her story, also her brother, who is the local funeral director. But unfortunately, as we know from the title, no one dies in Scarnes. He's going out of business. His house is going to be sold. She is dealing with something that's going on with her health, a new development. She's trying to hide things from the community police officer. There's all sorts of things going on in this. It's a really entertaining show. It's really funny. It's really gripping. I like the little horror bits we have in it with blood and stuff. The makeup's really good. I would thoroughly recommend. I thought it was a really entertaining show. So that's called Post Mortem. No One Dies in Scarnes. And that, guys, that about sums up what I've been watching this week. This week coming up is obviously Halloween week. We have a lot of stuff to do for Isaac's school. We have a spooky porch competition. We have a baking competition. We have craft stuff. We've got 3 different outings planned to like different Halloween things. So this week's going to be a busy one, so I might well not get as much watch this week, guys. So yeah, thank you for watching. I must say to the people that do regularly watch, thank you so much. I have got a bit disillusioned with YouTube recently. As you've probably seen, the views I get on my movie stuff are not very high. I do these videos purely for the love of movies and the interacting with those of you that do watch and do comment below. And thank you so much for the support. It does mean a lot. It's, you know, you feel sometimes when you do this that you sort of like give a lot out and don't get an awful lot back sometimes, but I do know that there are those of you that do come back and that do watch regularly, and I just want to say how much I do appreciate you guys for that. So that will do me for the week. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch up with you next week for another What I Have Watched. Over and out from Lisa Lives.